Wholeness, everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Meditate. I am your host, Ahmad Brown, and for today's show, we are going to be talking about the solar plexus chakra, the solar plexus. So, getting right into the lesson, talking about the solar plexus chakra in our chakra series, the solar plexus is yellow. Today's lesson is going to be yellow. The reason why the solar plexus is yellow is due to the vibrational frequency that yellow has, and it goes, of course, according up the chain of lights, or the wheel of lights, or the changing vibrational frequencies of the full color spectrum here on the planet. Always look back into your old science classes when they taught you Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. They were telling you that those are the expansive outside colors that the eye can see. However, those are the same expansive colors that are inside your body, which is why your eyes can actually interpret them. So, continuing on with our theme of bringing spirituality into the body so that we're intimately connected, we're going to deal with the solar plexus. And so with the solar plexus, as it relates to the body, the solar plexus is right above our navel area. And right above our navel area, it mostly affects our stomach area. And so if you've ever watched a video from We Meditate, I actually briefly made reference to it in the sacral chakra lesson, talking about the principle of grace, saying that the stomach has a lining of grace, or a lining of mucus fluid, that prevents all of the strong acids and gases that are used to break down your intake, which is a symbol for the things that we say spiritually are buffers to the negative things, or the things that we use to crash and break things down in our regular life, so that we can maintain moving forward in singularity and processing our goals. But nevertheless, getting into the lesson, there's always mythology concerned with solar plexus, always essentially with any part of spirituality in the body. But the solar plexus chakra is actually considered a wheel, a W-H-E-E-L, as well as the will, as in the will of the body, the W-I-L-L. Reason being, this goes back to some of the most ancient understandings of the sun. As we know, the sun always rises every single day. However, the sun takes different placements in the sky based on the season. So in the fall, the sun is here. In the winter, it's here. In the summer, it's over here. And in the spring, it's over there. Essentially, all of the ancients over time began to understand this. And once they did, they began to make segments of the seasons in response to the placement of the sun in the sky. And when they realized that there were four major placements in regard to the four major changes of the temperature, so to speak, they realized that they had four seasons, and to put four seasons inside of this orb of the sun, or this star of this circle as they understood it, they made a cross, an even cross. Now this even cross is the original understanding of dualism, actually. This dualism is essentially the crossing of two opposite forces, or two forces going in two separate directions, or two different intents, however you want to reconcile that, but two different forces meeting pathways. But because these two different forces are essentially completely powerful, or all powerful, these two forces don't just meet and stop, they meet, interact, and then go through one another. And this going through one another was the actual cycle of the seasons, or the cycle of life, that they understood life to be. And so they knew that all of the seasons came in accordance that matched, essentially 3 months, 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. They were in balance. They made a balanced cross. And this is the original symbol for life. Not like the modern symbol that we have today with the traditional Christian symbol, which is an uneven cross, and which is actually an upside down sword, which is why the Bible is used as a weapon, as a tool of division. But we'll get into that later. That's some of the deeper lessons. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. It just means you need to know what you're doing with it. But nevertheless, the original cross meaning balance. And so with our physical walk, in our spiritual experience, we come into these bodies to get balance. That is the actual overarching goal for this particular experience. We should balance ourselves in our spirituality to where we can ultimately operate in transcendence, where we have full oneness with everything within us and everything without us. And so the way that you would do so is if you have to control your willpower. You have to get control over your body. You have to be able to direct your full will, intent, and purposes from your psyche, or from your mind, from your heart, and then get your body to act accordingly. Um, this is not even something that you have to look at the ancients for. Just look at yourself. You know, it's very, very easy to want to go do something divisive or destructive, excuse me. But it's so much harder to do something virtuous, do something, you know, that helps someone else. You know, do something that just seems to be a betterment of yourself. Like say diet, for instance. You know, it's so easy to just hit the fast food. So easy to just make fried food and make some real quick. You know, whoop-de-whoop-de-woo. But it's so much harder to dedicate yourself to a vegan diet plan for 60 days. You know, cut out the meats, you know, eat straight vegetables and beans and rices and, you know, just leaves and fruits. And those things are better for our body because they raise our vibration, but it's so much harder to raise a vibration as opposed to lower a vibration. So that's essentially this whole thing about balance and increasing your will, because you're to use your willpower to help raise your vibrations so that you raise your awareness to this transcendent oneness where you realize that all is self, or that all things are connected, and that's the crown chakra. But again, we're going to get there. But so back to another mythology, appropriation to the solar plexus, we have to realize that over time, humanity has actually layered on different mythologies. Let's say, like I said, some of the origins in sun worship, as they like to say. You know, they say, oh, this pagan sun worship, they worship the sun. But, you know, Christians also worship the Son of God. But then dare to say it's not pagan, then unrealizing that they've taken it all from the ancient pagan nation, so to speak, of the old days. And just another side lesson. Pagan does not actually mean deviant or wrong. The original meaning of the word pagan meant rural, meaning someone or a particular tribe or group of people that were in a smaller clandestine group that opted out of major cityscapes. An example of pagans would be, like, say, the Babylonians. The Babylonians in themselves were not pagans because they lived in a city with millions of people. The original pagans were the actual Hebrew people because they were nomadic people who opted out of society. And in their pagan origins, that's when they encountered the God Yahweh of fire and then wanted to come into cityscapes and take over cities. In the modern day, as they switched not modern day, in the Roman times, as they began to switch the meaning of words to fit this new Germanic language that eventually led to English, which is what we speak today, they understood the Israelite people to be more of the pagans in that particular land because they were the ones who were under the foot of Roman society because the Romans were the ones running the world essentially at that particular time. So again, pagan doesn't mean deviant or wrong. It simply means small, clandestine, and separate. And so we do not want to be a pagan in any of our understanding because we want to be what is called inclusive, meaning everybody's included, meaning knowing that the Almighty is for every single body. And any type of clandestine group that wants to cut, separate, make an exclusive group of people, a hierarchy, so to speak, of who's more spiritually elite than the other, they're doing no more than reenacting an actual pagan system that is the deviant pagan that we know it today. So be very, very aware of that in all of our spiritual encounters and whatever spiritual institutions that we have. But back to the solar plexus. As I previously stated, you know, humanity simply just layers on mythologies as they understand what's going on in the inner workings of the body. The reason why they did this is so that they can elicit a better psychological or conscious response to what is going on inside of us spiritually. Meaning, like I just said, the cross was the symbol of life because that's where the four suns were in the sky, knowing that that is inside of the stomach, right? But then they appropriated it to a wheel. They put it on a wheel because they realized that whatever you put in your stomach helps generate your movement, and then that's your willpower. That's actually your fuel for movement. Then the layering actually continues. I'll give you some examples here. Go to Greek mythology. Greek mythology, again, which laid the foundation for the New World Order, the New World Order that we live in today. They understood the sun in a very similar way. Look at the Greek god Helios, for example. The Greek god Helios, who was the sun light-bearing deity in their pantheon, he had a 4-horseback chariot that went before him and pulled the sun in the various directions as he came and visited the earth. 4 seasons, 4 chariots. Going back to the Hinduism, you have the god Surya, S-U-R-Y-A. Surya was the benevolent sun god of Hinduism that had 12 Adaritas. And these 12 Adaritas, as Adityas, they were a part of the 12 different zodiac. And the 12 different zodiac were the three segments of the sun in the particular season. Meaning if you were in the fall season, you would see the sun literally make jumps and shifts within that. It would be from in the top corner to the middle corner to the bottom corner. And then it would switch seasons. And that gave us the 12 seasons, or the 12 understandings of the seasons, or the 12 zodiac. And this is before the zodiac was really thoroughly understood. The Hindu people symbolized the sun's placement in the sky and made the 12 Adaritas as the guardians of the months of the year. The guardians of the months of the year. See, these are Hindu people who understood that there were 12 months of the year before a Gregorian calendar was ever even invented. Another example is with Surya is depicted as a red man with 4 arms. That same 4 arms, that's the cross again. With 4 arms, where he holds water lilies with 2 in his hands, a water lily. Let's break that down for a second. There's symbology in that as well. Water. What do we know about water? Water is the life-giving principle for every material or organic substance. Literally speaking, everything that you can see that is still in a high vibrational frequency, meaning it still is alive, has a lot of water in it, including our human bodies, which is 70% water. So the water symbolism with this particular sun deity whose arms is a cross, he has water in one hand and lilies in another. This principle with lilies is about the flower, a blossoming flower. The flower blossom, again, talks about the crown chakra. When you root up all of your spiritual energy to the crown of your consciousness, a flower blossoms, meaning you realize that you are one with the universe. You become fully connected with your identity, your purpose, and your walk and path with life. Then you begin to receive the light from the universe, and then it comes down into your body, and you begin the process of photogenesis, or transformation, in blossom, and you become a full person. Just like a flower receives light from the sun, it blossoms in the ground, and then it gives you something pretty to look at. You're supposed to have a beautiful life. This same mythology actually continues going forward. This same particular Surya, again with the blossom in the water, his whole intent, or his whole design and purpose that they understood him to be, was to encourage and bless those who followed him. Doesn't that sound very similar to a person that we know in Christianity? Again, if you may not think so, we're going to get to it, and you're going to see how all of this starts to parallel back to the body. And it's essentially the same for yourself. Aren't we supposed to essentially be encouragements to one another? Aren't we supposed to bless one another and do nice things for one another? You know, the whole concept of pay it forward, you know, as the movie like to say. That's more than just some random act. That is what we came here on the planet to do. We came here to bless the planet, to bless each other, to be benefits for each other, to live in community, in oneness. But again, we're only going to do that as if we master our will. But here's another example. As I say before, I made the reference to Jesus. If we look at the Bible, you want to break out the Bible, you can look at John chapter 4. John chapter 4, there's the old story where Jesus was talking to the woman at the well. And when we look at this woman at the well story, we're going to see the same symbology as Surya again. In the particular story, Jesus meets the woman at the well, and this woman is known for going back and forth to the well all the time. She goes back and forth to the well in the desert. She scoops up water, and she carries water back to her home. This particular activity is no different from any other culture, really. However, this particular woman, she had a very bad personality trait. She was essentially, she was the type of woman who just lives with a man so she can get over. Instead of using her willpower to make her own life, she rested on her femininity and her beauty and her ability to, use her sexual organs or use her ability to reproduce as the primary means for her to live. She just simply used her body to live. But she wasn't a prostitute. She was one who habitually married people. Essentially, this is like an original term for the serial monogamist, but in a much more deeper psychologically bound or psychologically dependent or codependent way, where she's codependent upon a man as opposed to interdependent upon her spirituality and herself. As it is written in the story, Jesus talks to the woman, and then he intuitively realizes who this woman is based on her behavior and what she's been doing with her life. He prophesies over her, and then she essentially goes on about her way renewed and rejuvenated. But before they get there, he says something very, very special that links this whole mythology back to the solar plexus and links it back to some of the more ancient interpretations. He says to this woman, I will give you a well of water that will spring forth out of your belly and give you life everlasting. And there it is again, that similar symbology. Jesus, the Son God, the Son of God, or the Son of Man, the Light of Man, all of these same titles attributed to him, speaks to a woman who has bad will, and then comes to her and says he's going to replace her will or her well. Again, the same symbol is present with the vibrations spoken by the words will and well elicit the same vibration, it's the same sound, meaning same meaning. The well or will, and he will replace it and give her a ever-flowing flow of water that will rejuvenate her life. And this same rejuvenation that he's speaking of is now the replacement of a bad codependent understanding of yourself, where you operate at a low vibrational frequency, where you have no will, no power, to where now he raises her up and strengthens her solar plexus to where she now can live and flow in water, or live and flow with the particular flow of her life. Actually, whatever her life flow is, it flows out of her will, out of her willpower. Just like with us, our flow of life, the well of life, the water of our life, the direction we're supposed to go in will flow from our stomach, because our stomach is the energy center that actually influences or controls our intuition. Like they say, it's in your gut, that gut feeling. Follow your gut. All of these things come way from the ancients. These are not new terms that they've invented. They understood this because the sun was in the sky and the sun was in your stomach. And so if you to receive the light from God, which is the external understanding of that, how light from the sun beams down to the earth, internally for your spiritual body, the light of the universe will beam down into your consciousness and come down into your stomach and charge you up so that you can move and flow with your life's intuition, with your life's ability and your life's purpose. And the only way you're going to follow it is if you know how to clean up and walk in and believe in your actual intuition. So that's essentially a part of the problem. Many of us have a very, very bad intuition because our sun doesn't shine. We're afraid for our sun to shine. Essentially, we're afraid of ourselves. We are afraid of ourselves. We have low confidence, low self-esteem, low regard for yourselves. And essentially, it gets kind of complicated because most people who are indoctrinated into a religion, it's in the design, in the not necessarily the mythology itself, but in the dogma and in the doctrine. They tell you to bow down to the things that are telling you to raise up. And so many of us may be in a religion thinking that we're doing big, great things, but we're not actually following our intuition. We're not actually following what is in our gut. We're following the dogma that has given us a frame of thinking that limits your intuition, that limits your way of expansive thought, that limits your ability to create and do wondrous things. Yes, there are always exceptions, but the exception is not the rule. The rule is that you are supposed to listen to your gut, trust your gut in confidence, and then step out and move forward using your willpower. And it's very simple because intuition is simply used to better our lives. It's used to better our lives. And that was originally stated by the god Surah. But again, it's the same benevolence that Jesus is actually supposed to embody. They say when you come into Christ, your life doesn't necessarily get better, but you begin the process of expansion. You begin to spiritually connect and spiritually grow. And as you spiritually grow, expansion, success, abundance, love, health, wellness, those are actually all guaranteed on the path if you follow your path accordingly. Do not get trapped into thinking because you've come into some spiritual fold that your life is supposed to be bowed down all of a sudden, that you're supposed to sacrifice and lose everything. No, you're supposed to lose your ego. You're supposed to lose your codependence. You're supposed to lose those mythologies that you've accepted, those lesser thoughts of yourself, those low vibrational frequencies that tell you not to be true to who you are, those are the things that you lose. Those are the things that you sacrifice and destroy and send down into the depths of hell of your bowels and let your bowels dissolve it as opposed to continuing to let it circle through your psyche. And then you're supposed to raise yourself up and be fully who you are and walk into the life of abundance, a life of creation, a life of creative thought, a life of light and love, which is what the goal or the overarching goal of virtually every religion is. And for a practical purpose, how do you be one of these people? Or I'm sorry, what are one of these people usually called or considered to be? A person that really maximizes their life and does things the right way. They're considered wise, a very wise person. And essentially, I mean, who does not want to be wise, so to speak? Only a foolish man rebukes knowledge. Or what is it? Someone who walks in the dark can never know the light. You'll never know the light of your own self if you continue to do stupid stuff all the time and be happy in doing so, or being happy in division, happily dividing yourself from learning something new, happy dividing yourself from expanding your thought processes and surrounding yourself around a group of people that you may not understand or that you may not want to be around. You have to raise your wisdom and put yourself in places around people and around certain things that are going to force your consciousness to expand. It's going to force your consciousness to see things in a different light or a different angle. Again, different angle, different season, different place in the sun, meaning inside of yourself. You literally turn on a light inside your consciousness that was previously just off. You move your sun from the spring side down to the wintertime. And now you really begin to light the darkness of your soul. Essentially, you're just expanding your mind. And as you expand your mind, you become more wise. And then as you become more wise, you begin to operate on this earth more fluently. And then you can become more affluent. So essentially, it just comes right back home. It comes right back home. And home is, yes, where the heart is, but you can only get to your heart after you trust your gut, which is beneath it. So, we meditate, or we meditate, I encourage you to begin to look at your sun. Look at what season you're in your life. Look at how your life is lighting up around you in the conditions that you were in. And if you like your conditions, great. Now look inside yourself and prepare yourself for when those conditions can change for the new season. However, if you do not like your conditions, own it. Look inside of yourself and say, you know what? I've had bad will. I've had bad luck. I've had bad intuition. I've had bad purpose. But guess what? It's okay. Because essentially God, or the Almighty, gives us what we create. And because we are creators made in God's image, we can create something new. We can create something different. And we can create something better. So how do we create something better? Let's get back to our gut and treat our gut better. Let's get back and eat the right things so that our intuition is now coming through in a clearer message with better fuel. Let's start to get out and actually build whatever it is we know we want to build. Let's look deep within ourselves and find that will again and go out and do it. And go out and create a better life for ourselves and for the life of everyone else. I'm Ahmad Brown, and this is We Meditate.